Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today, are reviewing the newest film from Netflix, The Gray Man. So, The Gray Man, like I said, is the newest action film that has been released on Netflix. It is directed by the Russo brothers and it stars Ryan Gosling as Sierra Six. He is like a secret operative working for the CIA who goes out and takes out all the bad guys, kind of like your classic espionage undercover assassin. And early on in the film, you see that he is being double crossed by the CIA. He finds out while he's fighting another assassin that this person was part of the program, and he's seeing that there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that are kind of nefarious, and he's not being told the truth, and he's kind of, he's leading to his own death in a way. I have to say, I think that Ryan Gosling is really good in this role. It is like one of those classic roles for him. It reminds me a lot of Kay from Blade Runner. He's a very stoic individual. He still has, some charisma to him. He's still likable, but he is that kind of strong, silent type assassin. And I think he does a good job. Ryan Gosling is a fantastic actor. There's really nothing that I've seen him in that he's bad in, and he's definitely one of the higher points for the film for me. Chris Evans plays kind of the opposite of him. He is the villain of this movie, and he is this really almost ridiculous bad guy. As you've seen in the footage, he has the mustache. He's completely different. It's like kind of a new role for Chris Evans. We're so used to him being Captain America or being the good guy, the big hero. He gets to be the bad guy in this one, and I feel like he definitely lives it up a little bit. He cheeses it up a little bit. There are times where I think dialogue is a little clunky and borderline. It kind of messes with the flow of the film because probably my biggest issue with the entire movie is the tone of it. The tone shifts back and forth. It wants to be very serious, especially early on in the movie. And then when, Chris Evans shows up, his character shows up, things get a little different. It's not that I exactly hate his role or his character. I think he did a good job. It's very different for him, and I did enjoy when he was on screen. But it's a very stark shift back and forth between him and Ryan Gosling. And Nadia Hermes is also in this. She plays more of a supporting role. She plays another operative for the CIA that's working along with Ryan Gosling's character. And I think she, brings a lot to the role. There's some good chemistry between her and the other characters on scene. She has some really good fighting scenes in particular. This movie is pretty well choreographed, so I did enjoy that. Noosh, who's also in this movie as another assassin who's brought in. There's some good scenes with him in particular when they're fighting in a hospital or when they're out in these kind of historic grounds fighting each other. Those were some of the best moments for me. I would say the action works really well. I think it's a really fun movie when you really go into the huge action set pieces. Like I said, some good choreography. But when it comes to the plot or the dialogue or really the writing of it, I think that's where it's a little bit weaker than some other films in the genre. Did remind me a lot of Extraction, their other film, which I thought was okay. It's the same issues. It's like a fun movie. The writing's not really there, the story's not really there, and they kind of interject that weird tone shift where a lot of people know the Russo brothers from Marvel and having that quippy humor. That is in this as well, and there are moments where it works, and there's other moments where it's kind of it doesn't work perfectly. There are some huge action set pieces, like I said. I think a lot of them are really fun. There's in particular a scene where they're in this big courtyard and there's all these different groups of assassins that are coming into contact with each other with the police, and there's just this big clash and all these huge effects and explosions, and it's really fun. But there's other moments where it kind of gets overtaken by the CGI and the green screen, and it just doesn't look great. In particular, there's a scene where they're falling out of an airplane. I don't know why movies are obsessed with doing these scenes where they fall out of airplanes, but they don't do it in a practical way, and it never really looks that good, in my opinion. If you do it practically, like, say, Mission Impossible, it looks amazing. It's one of the greatest set pieces you can do. But when you do with all this visual effects, it just never looks great. And this movie in particular, I think that scene was a little weak. There is a lot of globe hopping in this movie that you expect from, these big action films. They pretty much all do it now. So you're going between, the United States to Prague to Vienna to, Croatia. They're just constantly going to these different locations. And it does create some cool moments. It's a little silly when you're seeing, the name of the place pop up and they're like a new city every single set. So it kind of makes the editing a little choppy, but I do love the set pieces. I love seeing, the locations. They're really interesting, and it adds a little bit of element to it. As far as the cinematography goes, I think when you have the really good choreographed scenes, it looks good. I don't think it's like an ugly movie in any way, but when they do a ton of these drone shots, they pretty much start a lot of the scenes with these drone shots where they're flying into the scene. I don't love that. I don't think it looks great, but if you're into that and you enjoy that, that would work for you. I'm just not a big fan of drone shots in particular. This movie did cost a lot of money to make. From what I've seen, it cost around $200 million. So it was a big bet by Netflix. Do I think it paid off? I think that, they got some good actors, so they got some good name recognition. I think the action's really fun. It kind of sets up this franchise. But it falls a little bit flat as far as, creating a story or creating interest in these characters, because the way it starts off, it kind of throws you right into it. You're not really told why you need to care about these people or what's happening. It builds along the way, and I think the movie gets stronger as it goes. When it first started, I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this movie. As you got to know more about Sierra Six and his relationship and his past, it makes him a much more compelling character. Chris Evans' character is kind of a one-note bad guy, almost like a cheesy bad guy, but I did really like Ryan Gosling's character, and I wouldn't mind seeing him in the future, especially with Ana de Armas. I think she also has maybe a good backstory we could have built into there. She didn't have a ton in this one, but I'd love to see that continue. The movie by no means is boring. Like I said, it's a lot of action, and it is pretty much nonstop action. I don't think there's more than maybe 10 or 15 minutes in between every big action set piece. So I did enjoy that about it. I think that it keeps it going. It doesn't feel, like I said, slow. It's 2 hours long, just over 2 hours long, I think. And it doesn't feel that. It felt much shorter in my opinion, but it can be a lot. There's a lot of action. It's constantly going. So if you're someone who doesn't like that overbearing action, you might not enjoy it. But if you're someone who goes into expecting something that's just going to be a nonstop thrill ride, you won't be disappointed. So if I were to rate The Gray Man, I would give it a solid 7 out of 10. It shifted for me when it first started. I was like, I don't know, maybe this movie's like a 5 or a 6, but I did like the character development by the end. I think the set pieces really come together as the movie comes along, and I enjoyed it. I mean, it's not the best thing in the world. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's a pretty big gamble by Netflix, but I enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about it. If you thought it was as good as I did you dislike it? I mean, it really seems like it's mixed what people feel about it. It has some ups and downs, but leave those comments down below. Remember to like and subscribe. See you guys next time.